Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review of the latest episode of Outcast, The Damage Done. So, I overall really like this episode because it really got into the characters and moving their stories forward, which we saw with Megan and with Kyle and his wife. And we got a little bit of more backstory about what's kind of been going on in the town because there's this huge event they were doing a Remembrance Day for, and that there was this mine. And evidently there was some kind of accident. We don't know exactly what kind of accident, but it was probably an explosion of some sort. And a lot of people were killed. And evidently Kyle worked at this mine and was supposed to be working probably the day of the explosion. And it's kind of fortunate that he wasn't there because his one coworker offered to cover his shift for when his sister was going to have her baby or whatnot, and they shook hands on it, and he was kind of burned, showing that he was possessed and that probably the demons were behind that accident for some reason. So that kind of got an interesting vibe for what was going on in the story because everybody's kind of looking at Kyle like, screw you, you should have been there, and somebody else should have been alive or whatnot, and it's kind of crazy. It's like, it's not his fault. I mean, yeah, there was probably forces around him that were orchestrating it, but it wasn't his fault. And this was kind of being brought up to kind of showcase how the town's moving forward and how everything's kind of getting back to normal and seeing everybody kind of like getting into their places. And the episode started out with showing the weekly poker game. Reverend Anderson's dealing with the wound that Sydney had dealt him. And of course, the police chief Giles picked up on that kind of stuff really quickly and was kind of brought in the fold of it after the poker game. And it was cool to see that there's somebody outside of their circle who they're probably going to be able to bring in as an ally because he just does the cop thing very well. He looks at everything critically. Everything's not things you look at usually aren't what they appear to be. So him and Kyle kind of go through the Memorial Day. He's kind of showing him that he has doubts about this one person, the fire chief. And so Kyle kind of like goes up, shakes his hand, but we find out that the fire chief either isn't possessed or is not possessed in a way that we have encountered before, because he was able to shake Kyle's hand and there wasn't a burning or kind of adverse reaction to his touch that's usually associated with demons. So this is kind of interesting because he looks at Giles and kind of like shakes his head and like, no, he's not one of them. So Giles kind of goes off to apologize with carrying the casket that's got the coal that's got people's names written on it that they're putting on a pyre and lighting for remembrance and everything. And he's like, you know what? We're friends, and there are times that you need to know when to look away. This is one of those times. So he knows what he's doing. He probably knows who he's going with because he told him, I know you know about the camper. And that's going to be kind of interesting. And we also see that Kyle bumped into his wife and touched her, knows she's possessed. And he's like trying to go around and get to her as well. So Reverend Anderson's doing this stuff, trying to like give them the speech that he's going for to help people with their remembrance and everything and kind of show the town to wake up that things aren't as they appear. And then of course he sees Sydney and all that, and then what really sets them off is they had gotten this statue to commemorate the people that had died. And they take it off, and it's got the symbol that was carved into Reverend Anderson on it, and Patricia's son was the one that spray painted it and acted all like an asshole and everything, and then he starts pounding in on Sydney and trying to show the town, this is what he did to me. He is the devil. He's a demon and all that. And it's like, no! He's been pushed over the edge for what he has seen, because he doesn't know how to combat these demons effectively, and he feels very powerless. And I think this was a part to try and get him to feel that power again, but it was a very stupid move, because granted, Sydney shows that Reverend Anderson and Kyle know what they're doing and to try and stop them. This has brought it out into the open. Now they're going to try and be even more crafty and now they can pretty much put the town against him and Kyle because it makes him seem like a crazy man. And it's like, oh god, Kyle even talks about this later on going, you really shouldn't have done that. That was a really stupid move to do. I mean, now they know that we're onto them in some way that's even more concrete than what they had before. And he's just like, whatever, and going back in, and it's just like, this is going to be interesting to see how this goes forward. So we also got this thing going on in the episode with Megan and Donnie, and she pretty much emptied out everything and tried to pay him off. And then, of course, the police chief pulls in Mark, and he got the dash cam footage and suspends him. And then they find out that Donnie's still moving forward to sue him. So this creates a very tense and interesting situation for these side characters because what are they going to do? Is this part of the Demon's plan? We don't know. But I think it's going to move to a certain point that Megan's probably going to take drastic actions and kill Donnie. It's the only way to truly get out of the mess. Granted, she's probably going to have to ping Mark into this effect, but make it look like an accident because if you're going to do something like that, a police officer who knows how it's going to be investigated is usually the prime way to do it. But I don't know. It could be pushed into some other kind of territory because what's exciting about this show is I don't really know what's going to happen. I haven't read the comic books, and it just seems that they're doing a really cool and interesting way of going through these characters' arcs and stories, and I'm kind of excited to see where they're going and where Kyle and Reverend Anderson are going. So the last kind of bit that was in this episode was Kyle's wife Allison and the daughter Amber, because daughter Amber was saying she wasn't feeling well. That, of course, is a sign of usually the possession. But she's like in there drawing stuff, and then Allison goes in and sees what she's drawing, and it triggers a flashback in her that she could then remember that she was choking Amber. And that really freaked her out enough that she brought Amber to Kyle's to stay at. Now, Kyle doesn't know that at the point until they kind of have their reunion. Kyle doesn't explain about the demons, but yet she doesn't ask, but they get together, hook up, and it's kind of like goodbye in a sense till she kind of like figures out what's going on, and also the like, I know you didn't beat me because you were doing it for power or control or anything. You were trying to stop me from doing something, I think. That kind of like, I forgive you, and kind of trying to show that they can have a reunion, that they can still kind of be together in a way. But she leaves because I don't think she trusts herself around her daughter, because she's been acting more irritable and everything around her. And Kyle's just like, oh shit. But he did touch his daughter, and there wasn't an overreaction. And she does know about the demons and everything and the black liquid, so she could actually also factor into this demon hunting as well, depending upon if she has the same abilities as Kyle, if they're genetic or if they're passed on that way. So there was a lot of interesting stuff with the characters in this episode, and I'm really excited to see kind of where this season ends up. And what it seemed like is that the season end is just mainly going to be the setup for the bigger confrontations later on. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.